Yo, what is up guys? It's Pedro here, and in today's video I'll be talking about why I think the Washington Commanders made a mistake in the 2023 NFL Draft, and it might not be what you think. If you guys are new, please hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell so you never miss a video. Also check out BetUS, link in the description. I know there's going to be people commenting you can't judge a player until after his first season or even second season or third season, and that is true. You know, there's a lot of players that have slow starts to their careers and then take off, or even players that start off really well and then kind of fall off. But I'm not really judging the player. I'm kind of judging the decision to take a certain position in this year's draft, and honestly last year as well, where there were bigger needs, including offensive line for the Washington Commanders. So the one decision, and it was this year and last year, the 2 second-round picks that I disagree with. I don't think they should have drafted Quan Martin, and that does not mean, guys, I don't think Quan Martin can be a good player. I think Quan Martin can be a good player. It's been a slow start, but he's got really good athletic traits. He had the highest vertical jump out of anyone. He's got solid speed, had solid production in college. I think he can end up being a good player. It's going to take some time and some, development, but he could end up being a really good player. He's got that potential. But the Commanders are starting a 5th round, basically rookie quarterback. The offensive line last year was bad, and they really didn't do much. I mean, they brought in Andrew Wiley, who was not that good last year at right tackle. He was better at guard. And they brought Nick Gates in, who was, a guard last year, who was okay. And they didn't draft anyone besides Ricky Stromberg in the late 3rd round, and then I think Braden Daniels in the 4th, who, got hurt basically. But yeah, he wasn't going to, if he did make the team, he was going to be inactive for every single game. So they really didn't address the offensive line too much. And I understand why they didn't do it in the 1st round, because all the top guys, Peter Skornowski, from Northwestern was gone, Darnell Wright, what's his name, Broderick Jones. All those guys were gone by the time the Washington Commanders were up on the board. So they took Forbes, which, okay, that's fine. I think a DB at that point was the right pick. But in the 2nd round, after taking a DB and you already got Kendall Fuller, you already got Benjamin St-Juste, you got Derek Force, you got Cam Curl, even Percy Butler, who's shown some flashes, then you decide to take Quan Martin, a safety slash, slot cornerback, when you had a lot bigger needs. You could have went, offensive line, which I think is what they should have done. You could have went even tight end, which again, I don't really think they needed to, but you look at the, players that were still available. So they drafted right at 47, Cody Mauch, who's been, I don't know if he's played tackle or guard for the Bucks, but I've heard he's had a really good year. We could have used him. He would have been starting for us, whether at guard or tackle. And there's some other players as well, but, offensive lineman Osiris Torrance is starting, I believe, at right guard for the Buffalo Bills. Could have drafted him. And then I'm trying to think who else. I mean, that's just the rest of the 2nd round, but obviously there's more guys as well. I mean, I just really think we should have went offensive line. And again, you should do like kind of best player available at position of need. So maybe not like only one position of need. Maybe you go 3-4 positions of need. But if you're already stacked at a position, I don't necessarily think you should double dip. And in this, 3rd round, there are some guys available that they could have gone after. Also, John Michael Schmitz. But that's besides the point. I think they did this. They made the same mistake, I believe, in the 2nd round of this year or last year's draft, where they drafted Phidarian Mathis at 47 when they already had 2 really good players in Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen there. And I know they weren't sure if they were going to bring back Deron Payne, but still, you could have drafted someone late in that year. Like, the Cowboys drafted John Ridgeway. They cut him, and then we picked him up. There was a lot of guys like that you could have picked up that would have had the same kind of effect Phidarian Mathis would have had. And I've talked about this whole time without even mentioning that both of these guys have barely played for the team so far. And, Quan Martin, he's only been 3 weeks, so that's a different story than Phidarian Mathis, who missed his whole, 1st year, and then this year has been on IR and is going to miss the first 4 games of the season. That's a whole different story. That was, when that pick happened, I was really mad because I didn't think they needed it at all. They could have went and gotten Jaquan Brisker, who's been a stud. They could have gone offensive line, which I would not have minded at all. And, there's a bunch of different players they could have gone for. They didn't, Luke Godke as well, Troy Anderson. They didn't, and they decided to take Phidarian Mathis, and so far that hasn't worked out. We really haven't been able to see what Phidarian Mathis can be because, again, he's been hurt all the time. But, I think he can be a good player, but I feel like them bringing in John Ridgway and even like Abdullah Anderson, who's been fine, kind of proves like you didn't need to draft a like third, like D tackle that would have been third on your depth chart, maybe even fourth. You didn't really need to draft him in the second round. You could have waited a little bit. And it wasn't like, it would be one thing if it was this elite guy that was supposed to go in the first round and he fell to the second. That's one thing. But it's another thing for a guy that most people had in like the third, fourth round. So again, guys, there is still so much time. There's still a lot of time. Both these players could end up being studs. They really could. But with your fifth round rookie who is on pace to get sacked 107 times, and that is on him, and that is on the offensive line. He takes, holds on to the ball too long, and the offensive line, gives up too many pressures. And, you got Andrew Wiley there who struggled. You have, Sadiq Charles, who's been up and down. Nick Gates has been and then, Charles Leno also up and down. Like, the offensive line besides Cosme has not been consistent at all. And even if it's mostly Hal's fault, you want to get him the best possible offensive line. Give him as much time as possible because this is something he struggled with in college. You knew it was going to be an issue. So offensive line should have been a priority this offseason, and it really wasn't. They brought in a couple guys, but first off, I didn't like the choice of guys they brought in. And second off, I don't know, they could have done more. And again, I understand why they didn't get one in the first. That's fine. I think they should have gotten one in the second and then double dipped and gotten one in the third or fourth. What they did was they drafted Ricky Stromberg in the third, which I like that pick, and then they drafted Braden Daniels in the fourth. I think they could have done second and third or second and fourth because there was a lot of really big time contributors in the second round. But real quick, a word from our sponsor. And a huge shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this video. BetUS is a leading online sports betting company, and we're in the middle of the NFL season, so there's so many different NFL bets you can make, but you can also bet on different sports like NBA, which is going to come up in a little bit, MLB, which the playoffs are going to start, hockey, soccer, so many different things. But the Detroit Lions and Green Bay Packers will be playing tomorrow night, so you can bet on that. The Lions are 1.5-point favorites. You also got a bunch of different bets this week, and the Commanders play the Eagles, at Philly. That's going to be a tough game. The Eagles are favored by 8.5 points. So if you think the Commanders are somehow going to win, you can, make some money doing that. But yeah, check them out. Link in the description. You can get 125% first time deposit. So if you, or first time deposit match. So if you put in $100, you'll get $250 back, and you can do live bets, parlays, futures, a ton of stuff. So check them out and bet responsibly. Also, just another thing, Quan Martin, again, it's so early to judge if he's going to be a good player or not, but when you draft a guy in the second round, you expect him to be a contributor right away. And so far, we saw him in the preseason. He struggled a little bit, and I said, I don't think this guy's going to play, should be playing any defensive snaps, and he hasn't yet, which, isn't surprising, but it's a little bit concerning. He's a second round pick. It's like they're almost forced to play these guys, because if you don't, it's not a great look. He missed week 2 because of the concussion, came back this week, played in 64% of the special team snaps, has yet to play a defensive snap. I don't know. And that's part of the reason I didn't think it was the best pick, because look, you already have, of course, Cam Curl, you have Derek Forrest, you've got St. Juice, you've got Fuller. All guys are, definitely ahead of him. You got Forbes, who you drafted in the first round, so he's going to be ahead of him. And you got a guy in Percy Butler, who you drafted last year, who, didn't have a great year, but has some potential, and you were excited about him. And he's been, he played 65% of the snaps. So to have, him play 0 snaps and it just not really a clear pathway for him to get on the field is a little concerning. It's a little bit concerning, and that's part of the reason why I didn't love the move to do that. But it is what it is. They decided to do it, and so far, again, it's early to judge the rookie class, but they're not, there's not a lot of contributors. You look on the offensive side of the ball, you really don't have any. Chris Rodriguez is playing a little bit. He might be the biggest contributor on offense. He really might be. You got, Ricky Stromberg, who, honestly, I'm encouraged by. I think he'll be a starting, guard or center in this league. He's played a few snaps. He's the backup, so that's fine. Like, he's kind of right on schedule. Maybe you would like him to start, but that's asking a little bit much for a late third-round pick. And then on defense, you got, Manuel Forbes, your first-round pick, playing 41% of the snaps. That's a little bit concerning, but it's still very early. And then, Braden Daniels got hurt, and KJ Henry's not playing. Whatever. It is what it is, but I think it's a little bit, they could have used the offensive line help in someone like Osiris Torrance, who had a good game. DeJuan Jones could have been a mid to late round pick, and he's been balling out for the Browns. And then, Cody Mauch as well. But I don't want to be too negative, but when you lose, there's a little bit more negativity in the week. But I'll flip it over to some positivity at the end of the week. So thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and peace.